All right, everyone, and we're live, I think, today. Yeah, that's all working. Hi, guys and girls, everybody. Welcome to another webinar, one of our light talks that we're doing today. Today is about how lean and structured team topologies amplifies productivity by Rutuja and Joshi. Rutuja is an awesome agile transformation lead and a principal agile coach. She's working from Germany currently, and she'll join us right here and explain us a bit more about herself and about her topic today. Here's Rutuja. There you go. There you go. Hi, welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Bram. Glad to be here. All right, so let's begin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Rutuja. I work as a principal transformation lead and coach with previously called Lock Me In, and now we recently rebranded our company, so it's GoTo now. And I have been working into agile space and OKRs and team topology, so it's been more than a decade. I have been working into this space, and I think it was always an awesome learning to transform and do all these sort of change management. Okay, so the topic for today is team topology, how a lean and structured team topology amplifies productivity. Um, I hope you all can see my screen. Perfect. Okay, so team topologies, how a lean and structured team topology amplifies productivity. Whenever we are talking about adopting a framework of or a change management process, we should always start with symptoms of the organization. So basically, this is the reason why we are talking about team topology. So symptoms of a non-lean chaotic organization. What do I mean with this? This is the reason what we are solving for. I mean, this is why we are talking. Now, if we look at some of the symptoms of a non-lean chaotic organization, a couple of symptoms I have tried to gather here. Maybe all of you can relate to them. Let's look at them. First thing is teams having no autonomy, teams having no mastery, teams having no purpose and no vision, no focus for teams and individual. There's no defined team boundaries, a lot of hands off and waiting time, queuing time, functional silos, dependencies and entanglement of goals which impede the value delivery. The teams have huge amount of cognitive load. The system is too redundant. The system is too slow. And that's why the organization have to go through painful reorg, let's say every few years or let's say every year. And the ultimate impact is you have unhappy people and burnout. Now, if we look at these symptoms, they clearly talk about some sort of chaotic organization and some sort of non-agile aspects there. So if you have teams who do not have autonomy, that means the team do not know what topics they are owning. There's no clear boundary in terms of what are we owning and what are we responsible for. And this leads to a lot of dependencies, a lot of interaction between multiple teams. So let's assume if you're building a product or a system and you have 10 teams who are together working and building that product. If these teams do not have autonomy and ownership, they'll constantly do context switching, they'll constantly take whichever responsibility is coming their way, and this will lead to no purpose and dilution of vision. They'll not understand what is the purpose of their team and what are they what's their goal, what do they stand for. And in this situation, you will have no team boundary. You will have these teams constantly interacting and being dependent on each other, which will slow down the system. And you will have a lot of work in progress. You will have to do a lot of dependency mapping between these teams. And another thing which is around functional silos. Now, if you have an organization where you do not have end-to-end feature teams, these kind of organization will tend to have over the wall DevOps, or you have tech ops handled somewhere else, you have security handled somewhere else. So in these kind of functional silos, also there's a possibility that you are slowing down the entire system. Now, with these kind of non-lean chaotic organization systems, if you observe, hey, these are the systems which do exist in my organization, the next step is to think about how do I solve it, or how do I make it much more cleaner and leaner. So team topology is an approach which may somehow help to solve these symptoms, but not necessarily that it will give you 100% of the solution. So together with team topology, you also have to talk about which frameworks, process frameworks, or people frameworks you want to use, which will help us to get the overall holistic solution here. All right. Now, in the previous slide we just looked at the problem space. We just talked about what are the what are the symptoms, what are we solving for. Once we know that, hey, these are the symptoms which we are solving for, these symptoms definitely will impact somewhere. And on this impact board, if you see on the screen, if you're talking about engineering organization, if you're talking about software industry, you will have huge amount of impact on your engineering KPIs, if at all you're tracking some. So definitely your uptime will go down, your cycle time will be fluctuating, your deployment frequency will not be as good as your competition may have, or what is trending and what is a good guideline for you. You definitely will have burn down percentage which will be lowered, and then the predicted ship date also will go down. So basically you will have lot of turbulence in all these engineering KPIs which your organization is tracking. And if you have impact on this engineering KPIs, the bigger impact will be seen on your business level KPIs, which is like your net promoter score may go down, your profits may start already fluctuating, your ARR may go down. Of course, the time to market will go down because we already spoke about having too many hands off and waiting time. So here, what I'm trying to say that if you have symptoms of these non-lean organization, this is the impact or the cause and effect will you will see in your organization. Once you see impact on your KPIs, again, a lot of times leaders start thinking, now how do I solve it? And I have come across a lot of organization where leaders will start thinking about maybe Scrum makes sense for us. Oh, no, 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 let's go the safe way, because in safe you can do a lot of these program level planning, and you can map your dependencies. Or sometimes people will say, no, 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 let's adopt OKRs, because probably we are missing out on some goal setting or some alignment in our goals. And then we will try chasing framework after framework and framework after framework. So one recommendation here is, do not go with a big bang approach here. So try and explore different frameworks, what could effectively help you to minimize this impact and solve some of your symptoms. Now if you look at these symptoms are not just process oriented, but these are more team centric symptoms. So to solve team centric system, you need a framework which will help you to improve and make your teams much more efficient. And this is where team topology, the concept of team topology, comes in picture. Now let's look at what is team topology. So basically, team topology is a combination of all these things what you are seeing right now on the screen. It is a combination of fundamental team types. So team topology talks about that, hey, there are specific 4 fundamental team types which an organization should label their teams with. Then there are 3 core interaction modes in which the different teams within the organization should interact with each other. Then we will look at the concept of Conway's law. What do we mean by Conway's law? And then we will talk about the cognitive load. So what do we mean by cognitive load? How do team handle these kind of cognitive load? And then eventually, how do we evolve our organization based on good practices which are mentioned in team topology? So basically, team topology in a nutshell is all about 4 fundamental team types which we will look at, 3 core interaction modes, Conway's law, team cognitive load, and which will help the organization to evolve in much productive and leaner organization. Okay, so now these topics and concepts are based on the book Team Topologies by Manuel Paisin and Matthew Skelton. I have tried to customize these concepts to a few organizations. Like whenever you're talking about a framework, it's always good to explore the framework and then find out that, hey, how can I really tailor made it to my requirements? So this is what I tried to do. When I will walk you through the use case, we'll get to understand this. All right. So in the next few minutes, we will be focusing on these concepts from team topology: Conway's law, cognitive load, team types, team interaction modes, and inverse Conway maneuver. Now, what are these? Let's just quickly get into that. Okay. What is Conway's law? According to Conway's law, any organization that designs a system will produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. Whew, difficult, right? I got this feedback from a few of my mentees or and other peers who work with me that, this is very complicated. If you read this definition, it's like, okay, let me read it again and let me read it again. So I have a use case from my own. I read Conway's law at least 10-15 times till I fully understood it. So please take your time. Maybe we can spend another 15-20 seconds here. Let's read through this again. Conway's law. Any organization that designs a system will produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. Now, what does this mean? So, to simplify the understanding, I have got another simple explanation for you. Now, if you look at the first diagram, the first layer, there's an organization where you have small distributed teams. You see those circles? Those circles are defining boundaries of those teams. That means each team is quite autonomous and they have ownership of their topic, and these are small distributed teams working towards the same value stream, or let's say towards the same system. Now you have these small distributed teams which are working here independently but in a coordinated manner. They're more likely to produce this kind of software design. By software design, I mean architecture here. So if you look at the right hand side, the architecture look clean. It's modular. It's like a service architecture. Okay. Let's look at the second layer. Large collated teams. You have this big circle in this ecosystem where you have lot of multiple teams which are working with each other with huge level of dependencies and hands off. So all these teams are kind of dependent on each other. They are working in this large collated ecosystem. The design what they are producing is a monolith architecture. Now I think let's not get into this intense discussion of why monolith and why microservices, etc., etc. I think you already know about it and you are well read that how to avoid monolith architecture and how the industry is shifting towards more microservices and modular architecture. So now, again, coming back to Conway's law. So what Mr. Conway said that the structure of your design, or let's say simply the architecture of your system, will reflect or will mirror the number of communications your team will have while they're producing the system. So, for example, if you're working on a system and you have 10 different teams, so team number one talk to team number two, three, four. By talking, I mean collaborating, communicating, interacting, exchanging, being dependent, right? So I'll just say talking. Team one talking to team 2, 3, 4, and team 2 talks to 7, 8, 9, and team 7 talks to 1, 2, 3 again, and team 8 talks to team 4, 5, 6. The environment where you have so many permutation combination of collaboration and communication between different teams, the kind of architecture system design what they are going to produce, it's going to be very complicated and very complex. Now imagine right now we are talking about a system with 10 teams. Now when you decide to grow, when these teams become 15 teams, you slowly add more people, more teams. These teams become 20 teams. Over the years, these teams become 200 teams. You are adding more and more to this monolithic architecture. You're adding more and more and more complexity to this kind of a design, which I'm sure is really not a scalable and a good approach to go. And this is where a lot of time you must have heard from your engineers or teams, we have so much of legacy, and this is the reason. And that's why Conway's propose that we should have more small distributed teams, and we should not work in this too much dependent kind of an environment where we are constantly mirroring this kind of chaos in our architecture, right? So Conway's law is it clear that we are talking about the more the communication, collaboration, or let's call it the uncontrolled communication and collaboration the teams will have within themselves, this will affect the design of your system architecture. It will become more and more chaotic and complex, and over the years it's really unmanageable. Organizations do fight, and they really invest a lot of efforts and resources and cost to understand that, hey, how do we get lean with our system design? Okay. Now Conway's law is done. Now let's little bit talk about cognitive load. So what is cognitive load? There are three types of cognitive load which are identified. And cognitive, it's a scientific theory, cognitive load. So it is not very software specific, or it is not very organization specific. Cognitive load is all about a human brain's capacity works towards. So let's say I'm a human, I have a specific cognitive capacity of my brain. So when we are talking about cognitive load, even a team has a certain level of cognitive capacity which that team can efficiently handle. I mean, you can keep on feeding more and more cognitive load, but again, you don't know where it will burn out, right? So cognitive load are defined with three different segments. The first one is intrinsic cognitive load, the second is extraneous cognitive load, and the third one is germane cognitive load. Now let's talk about what do we mean by this. Intrinsic cognitive load is all about what do I know um, about my domain to excel, right? So I have got a very generic example here. Let's say we talk about driving. So intrinsic cognitive load is all about how do I recognize the road signs. So when I'm driving, hey, this is a sign for one way, and this is a sign for parking, and this is a sign that, hey, I have the priority as a driver to use this way. So these kind of road signs, so learning to read the road signs, this is intrinsic cognitive load for a driver. Talking about extraneous cognitive load, it is all about learning learning from the ecosystem or mechanics. So again, with the context of the car or driving, how to fix the broken engine of the car or how to change the tire, this is nothing but your extraneous cognitive load. And the third one, which is absolute favorite of humans or teams, is germane cognitive load. And again, in the car context, the example here is how do I drive to be fuel efficient? So when we talk about intrinsic, extraneous, germane cognitive load, intrinsic cognitive load will always be there, and you have to manage it to keep it sustainable. It shouldn't grow too much. By learning, coaching, mentoring, upskilling, a team can kind of level up their intrinsic cognitive load. You cannot get rid of it, but you should always try to keep it kind of stable. Talking about extraneous cognitive load, absolutely get rid of it. So for example, if you're talking the cognitive load for your team, and if you realize the team have 10% intrinsic cognitive load, 0% germane cognitive load, and 80%, let's say, extraneous cognitive load, the team will burn out. So trust me. So extraneous cognitive load, you have to watch for, you have to constantly ensure that you are eliminating or kind of minimizing this. Because as a car driver, I can simply go to the garage if I need to fix my broken engine or change the tire, but not necessarily that I learn the whole mechanism around how do I fix the broken engine of my car, right? So this is too much of a cognitive load on the driver. And germane cognitive load puts you in a creative space. It's all about problem solving. So let your team work towards or in the space of domain cognitive load, that hey, how a feature shall work, or how this problem of the customer can be solved. This is more this product discovery kind of an area. So this is how the team topology framework have wonderfully explained intrinsic cognitive load, extraneous cognitive load, and domain cognitive load. Like I said, intrinsic cognitive load will always be there. Try to keep it stable. Um, yeah, or minimize it. Extraneous cognitive load, just try to get rid of it. And domain cognitive load should be there. This is this positive or creative space which will make your teams happy. All right, now let's talk about different team types which are defined in team topology. Team topology concept says that any team which is a part of your organization should either be labeled as a stream aligned team, enabling team, complicated subsystem team, or platform team. I mean, there is no fifth category which you can identify, to label a team as. So whenever you're looking at an organization's topology, when you're drawing the topology for that organization, you always have to think about, okay, this team owns this topic, this team is owning so and so domain, so can I label it in a stream aligned team, or enabling team, or complicated subsystem, or platform team? Now let's look at this, that what are the definitions, what do they mean? When we say stream aligned teams, basically these teams are nothing but feature teams. So you have a value stream map for your product or for your system. One should always start the customer journey mapping, right? That the customer will log in, and let's say will stay on our product. This is the customer life cycle. This is the customer journey map of our product. Let's say from point A to point B. Now, once you have this customer journey map, you will have a value stream mapping, which will be value stream map, which will be based on this customer journey mapping. Once you have that value stream map, stream aligned teams are just next to this value stream map, and they're constantly delivering features and values towards this value stream map. So stream aligned teams need to be super fast. They are the team who will manage your time to market. They are the team who will run, customer obsessed, and really speed as their habit. And that's why stream aligned team needs to be constantly focused on the value stream. The ownership is super clear. They own a feature, and they are constantly delivering value towards your value stream. When we talk about enabling team is the one who will work in the research and proof of concepts and different trending topics, and they will always stay ahead in the learning curve. And the job of enabling team is to upskill the stream aligned team. So for example, if your stream aligned team is in sprint 0, your enabling team will already run in sprint 3. They are ahead in learning. They will constantly upskill the stream aligned team with a lot of research and a lot of information and concept things they will work on. Now, complicated subsystem team is a special team which needs a lot of specialized and expertise knowledge around that domain or that component. And that's why we try that there should be a separate team which is labeled as complicated subsystem team. They own the component which can be consumed by multiple stream aligned teams for their value delivery. So complicated subsystem team is more like a pure component owning kind of a team. Platform team, again, it provides service to the stream aligned teams. So platform as a service, they provide platforms, different tools to stream aligned teams, from where these teams can again easily deploy their features. So basically, in any organization ecosystem, you will have stream aligned teams, enabling teams, complicated subsystem team, or platform team. All right. Now let's look at what kind of team interaction modes are mentioned in team topology. The first one is X as a service. For example, if my team is a platform team and your team is a stream aligned team, my team is giving a platform as a service to your team, which you are just consuming and using. So basically, I'm enhancing the developer experience, or let's say streamline teams experience, right? So I'm reducing the cognitive load here. You remember we talked about the cognitive load, the extraneous one, right? So by doing this, there's an interaction between us, which is X as a service. I am the service provider. I'm giving you a tool or platform which you can use as a service. So it's a one way communication or one way interaction, which is said between this team and platform team. So this is one type of interaction, which is X as a service. Another interaction could be facilitating, where let's say I'm an enabler team. I come with a lot of research and a lot of user data and a lot of user analysis, proof of concepts. So I will come and produce a lot of knowledge base for you and upskill the streamline team, the feature team. So I am facilitating you with my knowledge, right? So again, this is a one way kind of a communication or interaction. The third one is collaborating. Now, collaborating could be two-way. Let's say you are a streamline team and I'm a streamline team, and let's say there's another third streamline team. And now these three streamline team needs to collaborate in order to generate or deliver value towards this value stream. So the third interaction is collaborating interaction. Now, whenever teams are interacting between each other, again, we have to watch for that there's not much of interaction. So usually, if I'm a platform team and you're a stream aligned team, the obvious typical interaction we can have is X as a service, which is a one-way interaction. I produce the service, you consume the service. So it's quite one-way interaction. So collaboration is expensive, isn't it? Right? So what or where we are heading towards with this team topology framework and concept is defining the team types, meaning what kind of ownership model this team will have, and defining the team interaction modes, meaning what kind of interaction this team will have with other teams. If you try and keep this lean, half of your problems, we spoke about the symptoms problem, will be solved. So I think you really have to watch for this. And this is the starting point when you really want to kind of make your topology much more leaner and efficient. All right, now let's quickly look at the reverse or inverse Conway maneuver. We spoke about the Conway's law. We just saw here that Conway's law is all about if you have too many teams working in this large collated system, they will have a lot of dependencies. They are not following any kind of team type or interaction type. They're just constantly collaborating and creating more and more dependencies, and you have monolith architecture, right? Now, when we say inverse Conway maneuver, what we are trying to say here is, instead of evolving your architecture or design based on how your teams are interacting, do the opposite of it. Now, what do we mean by do the opposite of it? Put the target architecture in the center. So let's say I want to build this product or this system. Now, architects are huge fan of this. So architects really know it and value it the most. Take the target architecture or the desired architecture of this system and put it in the center. So architecture in the center. And then based on this unicorn looking architecture or your design architecture, evolve your team around this architecture. So instead of your team are already there and they're interacting too much without any sanity, and then the architecture is like a byproduct of this, we are doing it the other way around. We put the architecture in the center first, and then we start defining or evolving the teams around this. This is nothing but inverse Conway maneuver. Another interesting conversation I had with a few leaders in the organization, this all theory sounds so fantastic. Oh wow, this is so easy. Well, it is not. It looks very easy, but it's a process. Change is never easy, isn't it? So it's a part of change management, and you have to keep business as usual. You cannot stop delivering all the features and say, you know what, 3 months, let's take a pause because we want to work on our team topology. That's not happening like that, right? So though it looks very easy, but you really have to start with baby steps here. You really have to think about what is the least impacted and what is the most efficient solution when we start implementing this topology roadmap or reorging roadmap. Okay, now this was all about the theory. So we looked at, so if we go back, I think we already talked about Conway's law. We spoke about cognitive load. We talked about team types. What are the team types which are defined in team topology concept and framework? We already looked at the team interaction model. And of course, the last point was reversing or inversing the Conway maneuver, right? So this is what we looked at. These are the concepts which are basically kind of the boiled down version of the book Team Topology. I mean, of course, they talk about DevOps culture, and they talk about how do we break functional silos. But I'm mindful that the session is about 45 minutes to 1 hour, so I cannot bring everything right away on this table. So I think mostly the very highlight topics from the book I already presented to you. The next thing what you can do, you can really if you're interested, buy this book and maybe try it yourself, go through all the concepts mentioned in the book, and try to run this team topology of a session, a short workshop for a org size of 5 teams or 10 teams, and I think that will give you more hands-on exercise or experience. All right, so similarly, once I got aware about this topic, I spoke to a few leaders from my previous organization, current organization, and these leaders, they were wanting to have this kind of reorg, and they didn't know where to start, because we want to reorg, we want to split different teams, and we want to change things, we want to move people from here to there, but if you do not have a good rational or kind of data pointers that how will this be more effective, you should just not start, right? So after a couple of conversations, we made a plan, and we did so I did help a few leaders in reorging and kind of doing this team topology transformation for their teams and their org. So one of the product portfolio with whom I work, I got this use case for you here to discuss, that how did we start and how this team topology look in real life. All right, so I hope you can still see my screen with the Miro board. Now, this is what the exercise look like when you will start. It's done on a Miro because we are all remote. So this exercise is done for a product portfolio where the head count is around 300, and we closely map the team topology for 20 teams. So there are 20 to 22 teams who work in different clusters. So we try to identify what is the current state of their topology. All right, so let me get started. How did we start? So team topology model process works in 3 stages. You have to, I hope you can see my screen, right? All right, this is better. All right, so first thing, you have to start with mapping the current state of your organization. Where do I stand right now? I want to reduce weight. First thing I'll do is take the weighing scale, stand on the weighing scale, and then write down my current weight. Then I'll do couple of more advanced level data analysis. What's my BMI? What's my cholesterol level? What's my HbA1c? Da, 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 da. So I think you first need to get your report card, right? Your health scorecard, and this is exactly um, uh, oh, okay, Abhijit. Yeah, that's a good question. All right. So maybe I can also increase a little bit the size so that I think this is better, right? Now everyone can read. All right. So the first thing is mapping the current state of the organization and reflecting on the results. So where do we stand right now as an organization? The second stage is to analyze the results and define your reorg roadmap, that, hey, this is where we stand, but where do we want to go? What is sustainable for us as an organization? What is scalable for us as an organization? And what will remove all those 15 symptoms which we looked before? Too many hands off, too many dependencies, queuing, your KPI is going down. So this is what we are solving for, right? So this is the model process which we will start defining. Now, when you start the workshop, the first thing you will do is, if you have 200, 300 people in the session, ensure that they are all onboarded on the concepts of team topology. I mean, when I say streamline team, it's extremely important that the other 200 people have the same understanding of the definition of a streamline team. Or when I say platform team, what do you understand by platform? Is platform a service? Is platform a feature for you? So it's very, very important that we get everybody on the same page with all these concepts. Once we have done this, of course, concepts like Conway's law, Dunbar's number, cognitive load, you have to ensure that everybody is on the same page. They are speaking the same language. Once you are done with this, the next step here is to start drawing the team topology, which is the eye opener. So this is a real live team topology. I have removed data and the confidential part out from this org, but basically this is how the team topology looked like when we did the exercise. So if you look at each team is at least 3 team types. So it's streamline, it's also owning a subcomponent, and it's also a platform. And what does this mean? I am interacting with few other teams as a service team. Let's say I'm owning a platform. So I'm building a platform for you. I'm delivering, or I'm X as a service for a couple of teams who are using that platform. So I am a team who is interacting with 3 teams who are using my platform, consuming my platform. So I have already one owning that platform, and so many interactions with different teams who are using my platform as a service interaction. Another thing, if you look at the same team, this team is also a streamline team. What does that mean? I'm working on features. I'm adding value to this value stream. So I'm also responsible to own some part of feature delivery. Another interesting thing, you see this orange box here? That means I am also a team who is owning subcomponent. That means I am a domain, I am also having domain experts around that subcomponent in that team, right? So this is one team which is platform team, subcomponent team, streamline team. Similarly, each team, and this is a real example, just that I have taken out the names. So the reality looks horrible, right? Every team is having wearing hats of 4 different teams. And what team topology just taught us? Hey, you need to have team autonomy. You need to define what is the boundary of this team. If this team is streamlined team, let them just do value delivery or feature delivery towards your value stream. I am not supposed to own components and produce platform and be an enabler team. What amount of cognitive load I'm adding to myself? I'm learning to read the road signs, and I'm learning to change the tires, and I'm learning to basically fix the broken engine. uh, that's way too much, isn't it? Right? So, but this is the live example. If you start implementing or drawing team topology for your teams, this is what you'll get. Trust me. And try talking to engineers, and this is causing the extensive level of cognitive load and burnout for these teams, right? This is not a good structure. And having this structure, you are increasing your interaction by leaps and bounds. I mean, if I'm owning 4 topics, I am doing unlimited amount of interactions and collaboration with different teams who are dependent on me, which is not really not a good a lean structure. Now imagine such a team adopting Scrum. So I have come across a lot of teams where the teams say, you know what? We do 4 daily stand-ups. I'm like, oh, you do Scrum? Oh, you do 4 daily stand-ups. And why? And they're like, yeah, we do 4 daily stand-up because 2 people are working. So, well, in this team, we are 8 developers. 2 developers work on platform. So they deliver some platform. Two developers are working on features. One developer is working on some knowledge sharing, basically enabling other team, and 2 developers are working on or owning a component. And whenever we meet for daily stand up, it doesn't make sense. You know why? Because the topics are so different. So we run 4 daily stand up, Really? I mean, the intensity can be so dangerous. So if your team is wearing multiple hats, having so many topics within them, you're not getting there. And on top of that, you have cognitive load of using frameworks like Scrum, where Scrum strictly say that, hey, you need to have one sprint goal. So imagine this kind of team will have 4 sprints goal, or maybe 5, depends, right? So when you have this kind of chaotic team types, where the team have no autonomy, no mastery, no boundary defined, you tend to own multiple things which are thrown at you. And this is what the spaghetti like or the spider web topology will be created. I'm very sorry for these lines, but they are, yeah, they are all interactions. So if you see these thin lines here, these are all the interactions they are having. Now, the next step, what we did, we said, oh my God. So this wasn't planned, but the managers of these team and the leaders and the architects were like, oh my God, this is so beyond our capability to interpret this. We don't know where to start. We don't know how to entangle this spider web. So what we did as a next step, we went ahead and we defined individual team topology. So this was more like for the whole org, what I just now show you. What we did as a next step, we defined topology for each team. That means how each team is interacting with every other team. So if you see here, I think you all can still see the good image, right? Cool. Okay. So if you see here, this team A is a is all four. So platform, streamline, owning a subcomponent, and enabling team. And this is interacting with team 2 as X as a service, with this team 4 as a facilitator, with team another team as a collaborator. Yeah. So this is how this one team, which is wearing 4 different team types, interacting with another 17 teams from the organization. Here it's even worse. You see, I'm interacting with the same team with 2 different interactions. That means this team is consuming my service, and also I'm building or owning a subcomponent for them. This team is again consuming my service, and I'm also owning a subcomponent which they are using. Yeah. So similarly, what we did, we tried to build team topology for individual teams. Now you must have this question that, all right, so this is the current state. So what I just now talked to you is about my health scorecard right now. Where do I stand? Now you all must ask, what next? How do we improve? What is the solution? So in this session, I cannot give you a solution. Neither in the next follow-up sessions I can give you a solution, because there is no this one solution. It's about, you have to talk about some reflective questions. So let me just quickly come to that point where you have to define your next steps. All right. So what is next? Next is you have to talk about where we are and where we want to go. What's our current state and what's our desired state, right? You have to talk about what is a dream setup for our organization look like. Maybe having 10 stream aligned teams and just two teams owning subcomponent makes sense. Maybe having 5 stream aligned teams and 3 platform teams. So it totally depends on which kind of product and domain you work in, and it totally depends on what kind of ideal team topology setup you envision or make sense for you. So you have to ask all these reflective questions in order to understand that, hey, this is where I am, but where I want to go. And I think based on this, you have to evolve this ownership model of your organization. So what should be the ultimate outcome of team topology definition and finding out all these team topology aspects of your team is, how do we evolve as a free and organization which is lean and having more ownership model here. And that's totally individual to every teams, but important is, this is the starting point. Unless you make these things visible, you don't get that shock of, oh my God, what kind of organization are we living in? And imagine adding 10. So this organization where we did this exercise, they said, hey, we have huge growth plans. Okay. And then my question was, all right, huge growth plan. You're planning to add 10 more teams here? Wait, you really have to stop. This is not sustainable. This is not scalable, right? So important thing is you need to first draw where do I stand right now and what the desired setup look like for me, which is much more meaningful for my business, for my system, for my domain, for my product, etc. All right, I cannot take you through the whole board because of the time constraint, but in case you want to learn more about how can you conduct this kind of a session for your org or one of your product portfolio or your teams, happy to support. We can connect offline and I can definitely help you around, hey, how can you really plan more concrete steps towards getting this team topology in place. Okay, so now we are almost reaching at the end part of our session. I want to show you a quick video, and maybe you guys need to think about this video in the context of team topology. So what I want is you watch this video and then please think about how this fits in the context of team topology. So let's begin. This is a video from Ferrari, the pit stop video, very famous one. Most of you or some of you must have already watched this. But again, after talking about team topology concepts, let's watch this video and relate it to team topology. All right. All right, so let me just quickly moment. All right, so let me just quickly, I think something went wrong. I hope you all can still see the screen. All right, so what did you observe here in this video? Basically, in this video, if you see, I wanted to show that video again. Let me just open that video because I think this will be much more meaningful if we watch that. And sorry for the advertisement. All right, so basically what happened in this video here, if you see, let's consider this to be an organization with multiple teams. Now, if I can relate this video with our team topology concepts and the framework and whatever we talked so far, each one of them represent a stream-aligned team, a feature team. If you look at this guy, he is absolutely responsible for driving. His ownership model is he drives. If you look at this guy, his ownership, he brings tire from somewhere. Okay, so he's bringing tire, he's fetching that tire from somewhere and bringing it to this team. If you look at this guy, he has the ownership of fixing that tire. So if you look at these, assume that each of them is a team. Each team is owning a responsibility. Each team is master in their own responsibility. And each team is well coordinated, but in no way blocking each other or let's say kind of having dependencies with each other. So if you look at this, the overall purpose or the goal of this team is, let's say, to win the racing championship. So let's say the goal is they want to win this championship. Each team know what they need to bring on the table, what's their goal, which will help them to get there. So everybody is having that role clarity. Everybody is having that clarity of their own goal. Everybody is having clarity of what do I own, what's my ownership model, and of course they're autonomous. They bring their own skills and contribution to the table. Everybody is contributing to this one goal and one value stream of winning the championship. So they are coordinated, they are well aligned, but in no way dependent or entangled or kind of this. Imagine this person, this driver. He parks the car, he gets down, and then he fetches the tire and then he puts in there. This will absolutely slow down the system, isn't it? And he can't manage it. He has autonomous goal, this one goal. Why is he in that org or in that system? So this is how a good representation of a org you can see, where all these stream aligned teams are collaborating in the most minimal way and still delivering the best. On the other hand, if you look at let's say who is the enabling team for them, maybe they have an enabling team somewhere in the back end who decides when to stop the car on pit stop, at what temperature the wheels needs to be changed, and what is the best practice to change the wheel, etc. So maybe there's a enabling team somewhere who is feeding all this knowledge and information to these teams. Maybe there's another team somewhere in the back end, which is a platform team, and the job of that platform team is we build tires which fits this system or this car. So there's a team which is responsible for building the tires which fits the dimension of this car, and with precision and the right product with the best whatever. So that's a platform team, and one of the team fetches those tires and put it here, which is a interaction of X as a service. I'm consuming the service of tire from one team. This is exactly the sort of topology a organization should work with, where you are autonomous, you have an ownership model, you know what you're responsible for, you all are aligned to one vision or one purpose of winning the championship, you are well coordinated, but in no way you are being dependent or slowing each other or slowing the system down. And this is exactly what we mean when we say team topology. I don't know what's wrong. Give me a minute. We are almost at the end. Murphy's Law, right?
It looks like yeah, you got it almost, I think. Sorry.
All right.
Wanna...
All right. So we are on the conclusion part now. Let's quickly look at some of the key takeaways. Some of the key takeaways here are: team topology alone is not enough. So let's say now tomorrow you go to your organization and you say, hey, you know what, I had this webinar and I listened to her, and she shared a couple of use cases and she shared the symptoms. We exactly have the same symptoms in our organization, and we have found the silver bullet. Team topology will solve everything. It's not working like that, right? Team topology is one of the things which will help your teams to get much more lean. The structure will get much more productive. You will try and make the structure much more well coordinated and evolve with a nicer ownership model. But at the same time, you have to ensure that you are using another good frameworks for managing your people, for managing your processes. You have process governance in place, you have technical governance in place. So I think all these things needs to be, there's a good balance of all these approaches which you want to use in your organization. So team topology alone is not enough. Second, you constantly need to talk about a healthy organization culture and mindset. It's at the end of the day, it's all about culture and mindset, and you cannot win unless you have that healthy org culture in your organization. So talk about good engineering practices. If you want to succeed as an organization, as an engineering organization, you have to leverage on great engineering practices. You have to talk about engineering excellence, different engineering initiatives which will help your organization to foster. And my personal favorite, the most important, which you cannot um, live without, or there's no kind of alternative to this, is having clarity of vision and goal. Unless your organization have clarity of purpose, why do we exist, what's the vision, what are we solving for, why are we even here as multiple teams, as my role, unless you have that vision clarity and that goal clarity and alignment and focus, will not get there, right? So I think this all together is a good package if you really want to make your organization successful and become efficient and productive in whatever you do. All right, so with this, I think we've reached to the Q&A, or at the end of the session. I'm very sorry for the hiccups of, changing the things from here and there, but I think to err is human, so you all will forgive me for all these small chaotic things. All right, so it's done. Ram, over to you.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions. You wanna take some?
Sure.
So I'll read some for you. And so one is from Hamza Zahir. How do you scale this across multiple teams? It could be that this question came in slightly earlier. No, it's actually 4 minutes ago, so it's still valid.
Okay, so I think thanks for the question, Hamza. But I think I already explained that when you're talking about team topology, you're talking about org. So let's say if you want to implement this, you have to look at your product portfolio, or it needs to be implemented in an org. So where you have an organization where you have multiple teams who are working on the same value stream or building the same product, then these all concepts can be scaled in the organization. So basically you're not talking about one team, so you cannot define team top, let's just analyze it for my team. No, it won't make sense, right? So you have to look at the whole systems view into consideration. So you have to open up the whole org chart, look at what all teams do we have, and let's start defining which team is what type, what kind of ownership that team have, and what kind of interaction that team is doing with other teams. So whenever you're drawing this map, you're drawing it for the whole organization. And scaling, I mean, I really didn't understand what do you mean by how do you scale this across. I mean, when you draw it, you do it for the org with multiple teams. Does that make sense? Is it, do you get the answer? I
I think
hope.
they can't respond directly,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Then we've got some big compliments. People pretty happy with the session, and also from John Ford here. Thanks for sharing. I love the way you applied a lean approach to the team topology transformation. Another kudos and another one, and then I think that is all the questions. Yeah. Christian said, "Thank you for a wonderful talk. Identified my team type." That's so
That's
cool.
very nice.
And from Matthew, nothing to add. Rutuja, an amazing session. Thank you. There you go. Yeah. All right. If you guys have no questions, I think that concludes the session. Rutuja, thank you very much. I think it was really nice. We'll see you again soon. And thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, Bram.
Bye.
Bye.